live. I think we got the phone charged up. So, going to do a quick fiberglass lamination today. This is your host, Josh, Grey Duck Customs. Got two molds going right now. These are vintage Honda S600 badges. So we're going to get that rocking. And then this one is a naca duct, if you guys can tell. So, I'm going to mix up some resin real quick, get banging. It's going to be kind of a quick lamination video today. If you guys need any products that I'm using, hit up Express Composites out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. They are fantastic and got really good composite supplies. So get your tooling resin, get your brushes, get your hardeners, get all that kind of fun stuff. What do I need? I need a mixing cup. That's pretty standard. I also need catalyst dispenser and some catalyst. What I'm also going to use on this, I don't know how well this is going to come through, but this Honda mold is kind of detailed, in terms of little small areas to get into. So I'm going to mix up a putty and fill that before I actually do my lamination. For my putty, I am going to be using milled fiberglass. So just going to be a thickener, nothing crazy. Nothing crazy. In my last series, I was doing a mold on a retro chair. We are still working on that project, but I got a couple dirty things going on right now, so I cannot start the fabrication of that yet until we get a couple other little projects done first. Because the shop has to be pretty clean before I want to get going on that one. I don't think this is going to take any more than about a quart to do both of these, so that's what we're going to start with. For my resin system today, I am using Orca 555 tooling resin. It's a little bit thicker than a general purpose or an infusion resin, so it's a little bit easier to laminate. And for my catalyst, I am using 925H. Sorry, this logo is kind of blacked out. It's been used a couple times. So the 925H is important because it gives you extended work time. If you use a standard MEKP 9, you're going to have 15, 20 minutes of open time. With this particular system, you've got about half hour, 40 minutes. So keep that in mind if you're doing composite fab. All right. Got a mix paddle here. And off to the races we go. So for this particular catalyst system, we are looking at 1.5%. So I'm going to fill this up to 15 cc's or just under, because that is how much resin we have. And that is when our timer starts. So if you guys are keeping track, watching your clock, you really want to make sure that you get your resin down before it starts to cure out. Obviously, right? Because you can't let fiberglass out if the resin's all banged up, going off and getting sludgy. So one trick I did with this is I did crunch up my fiberglass cloth on this particular mold, on the Honda emblem mold, because again, that's kind of a tight area, and this helps break the fibers so it's a little bit more conformable. So on our first layer, That's exactly what we're going to be after. Conformability. Once I get a couple layers down, I got enough base that I can kind of go crazy from there. But initially, I want maximum conformability. And so here's a little bit of resin I poured off, pre-mixed. Just going to dump a couple handfuls of this milled fiberglass in here. Mix it up with your stir stick. Willie, how you doing? Happy Tuesday. And that's not quite as thick as I want. I want a little bit thicker than that. There are a couple different types of composite reinforcement that you can use for this. I like to use the milled fiberglass personally because it's more of a structural filler. If you just use Cabasil, which is a standard thickening agent, it does work, but it offers no structural improvements. So that's about what we're after. You can see it's not quite running. And again, that's just a little bit of resin. It's probably 50-50 right now, actually. I might throw just a pinch more in there. So like I said, on this particular part, because of all the little cracks and crevices and details and stuff like that, I want to paint on that thickened resin first, and then we'll put our fiberglass sheet down after that. Pretty simple, huh? That'll catch all the corners, catch all the little areas that the fiberglass won't conform to very easily. So a little trick of the trade there. If you guys are new to the channel, this is kind of what I've been doing recently, is doing lives on anything that is kind of important. Anything that I think you guys can learn a trick or two from. I don't like to do a lot of video editing, so I apologize for that. You guys get the real deal, how it goes in the shop. And so if things go good, it's fantastic. If things go bad, you guys get to watch. So there's our milled fiberglass putty mixture. Cut all the nice little corners and radiuses and stuff like that. And then now here's where I take my crunched up fiberglass mat. It's going to be very flexible and very conformable. We just literally drape it right on top. Easy cheesy, right? Take our fancy paintbrush. And getting the resin on fast is by far the most important thing on any fiberglass job. You can take care of the bubbles after the fact. So get the resin on as quick as you possibly can because you are under a deadline. When that starts going off, you do not get another chance to keep going. So there we go. Like I said, that was a pretty small mold. Pretty small mold. This one, we're going to do the same thing with this one. I'm going to pre-paint this just, actually, you know what? Hold on a second here. So this naca duct here, there is a pocket right down there. And I'm going to brush a little of this thickened fiberglass mixture in there just to catch that radius a little easier. Because I know that's going to be a pain in the butt here. So we're going to just kind of eyeball it up. There's no magic science formula for this. We're just going to kind of brush it on nice and thick. Try to catch that radius if we can. Well, not try. We are catching the radius is what we're doing. Square corners, fiberglass does not like to go around, so anything that you can do to eliminate a square corner, the better. I think I'm going to end up think I'm going to end up having a difficult time coming around these corners. So what I'm going to do here is take a little bit of fiberglass mat and kind of start in that pocket area first. And I'm only after one layer right now. We're not doing any sort of structural layers. We're just after our first surface lamination. So this will end up being a multi-stage operation. We'll probably do this over the course of, I don't know, 2 or 3 days. But we just want to get a really good, nice single base layer down today. I tell you guys this on every single lamination I do not be in a rush. Yeah, you are under the deadline of, the resin going off and getting gel state, but you don't need to rush. You got plenty of work time, so make sure that you take your time, try to get all the air bubbles out, because that is the most important thing on our first layer here, is getting all those air bubbles out. Any air bubbles in the first layer are going to impact your mold integrity, or your mold surface integrity, I should say that. So will it work? Yeah, you can probably get away with it, but should you get away with it? No. Don't put yourself through that if you don't have to. Because once you start running parts, the last thing you want to do is try to repair a mold surface. Trust me, I have been in that situation a number of times over the years, and it's not fun. Mostly for molds that somebody else did. Generally, I keep my molds pretty good, but when I run molds for other companies, you never know what you're going to get, or who took care of them, or how they took care of them. So I think we're pretty close. We're fighting gravity a little bit, buoyancy and density. So objects heavier than air are going to obviously want to go down. Objects lighter than air will go up, right? Pretty simple. And you can see that I did not put a crease or a scissor cut in this middle line here. And you'll see why in just a second. The fiberglass will separate on its own. The resin actually has a chemical in it that dissolves the glues that hold the fabric together. So once that takes a few minutes, that will separate on its own. I'm going to rotate back to this Honda logo here. I could probably put down a second layer. It's not that big of a shape. Wouldn't be that bad to do right now, I guess. I'm using a very, very, very thin fiberglass mat. This is a 3/4 ounce fiberglass chop mat. So if you look through that, you can kind of see that there's a little bit of transparency to that fiberglass mat. You can see the glove behind there. Once you start getting into thicker mats, you really can't see anything. So we'll take advantage of the thin mat now. Throw a second layer down when we got a good opportunity to do so. Which way are we going to do this? Which way are we going to do this? We're going to do it that way. There we go. There's probably enough resin on here that it'll just soak up on its own. But that's okay. go. Beautiful, just beautiful. We'll switch back to our naca duct mold here. And I'm going to literally just start poking the fiberglass mat, and this is going to stretch and conform. And in theory, it should rip apart. It should rip apart on its own. There we go. Just like downtown. I'm using a stipple technique, so I'm just literally dabbing the tip of the paintbrush here. Try to get most of the air bubbles out doing that. This lightweight fabric actually has a really good air release on its own, so you don't need to go completely crazy on it. It's one of the benefits of using this thin chop mat right out of the gate. Very, very, very good air release. And I am just going to start adding a little bit more fiberglass down in that pocket area. I want to make sure that area is really well covered for the next reinforcing layers. One trick of the trade too, instead of using scissors, if you can tear your fiberglass mats, that will make it a little bit easier when it comes to the blending between the different layers that you're putting down. I typically don't use scissors once I start to do my lamination because you'll get a hard line from where that cut was. So if you can rip and tear, you will have a little bit better, cleaner fiberglass lamination. And again, I think I have enough mat on here right now, or we should be okay for our first layer. All in all, this is going to end up getting about 6 more layers of fiberglass once we actually get going here on the lamination. Total, we try to shoot for about 1/2 inch of total thickness. I've got a couple different tricks of the trade as well that I use once we do get the fiberglass stages done. We want to make a very, very rigid mold board. So I've got a couple core materials that I'll put around the perimeter here once we get our fiberglass pretty close to the correct thickness. You can use 2x4s, you can use all sorts of steel, anything like that, but you really want to make sure your mold flange stays nice and flat. I'll show you guys another little trick of the trade here. I've got a LED headlamp that I'm just going to make sure that I don't have any air bubbles, and I do have a big old air bubble down there. Couple big old air bubbles. Wow. Definitely don't want those in your lamination. A little bit of light goes a long way. A long way. So now I've got a fiberglass rolling tool. I'm just going to roll out all the rest of the air bubbles here. Give it a quick once over here. Not a lot of pressure. I'm more just concerned about moving the air. And again, we've got, there we go. We are back. Sorry, I dropped out for half. There we go. We are back. Sorry, I dropped out for half a second there. And again, center out lamination. That is looking fantastic. Just working those air bubbles nice and slow, medium pressure. Don't need to go crazy on it. These Honda badges are going to be for the hot rod called Project Honda Rod. And the idea behind this is once I get a mold, I can make them out of clear casting resin or clear plexi, basically. And we can put some lights behind them. So instead of just being a regular badge, they are going to be a running marker / turn signal marker. So that will be pretty cool. That'll be really cool, actually. And making sure that we get all those little bubbles out. I got plenty of work time, so take your time, do it right the first time. That looks really good. That looks really good. There we go. That looks beautiful. I'm gonna try to pick this up without it going crazy. So there's our Honda mold with first layer glass down. These are gonna make really, really badges. Really sweet badges. Now on the rest of the layers, it's gonna be way, way, way easier to go around those Honda details. Since we have that little bit of a radius going from the emblem down to the mold surface, it's gonna go by way, way, way faster. And we're gonna come back over here to our naca duct. And I am gonna add a little bit more glass. I still have plenty of resin, so I'm just gonna add another quick layer. Well, we got that. It's not gonna hurt anything. we got for length here? About like that. I wasn't planning on doing a second layer, so I didn't have this pre-cut, no big deal. About like that. This 3/4 ounce chop mat rips away pretty easily by hand, so we're just getting another layer banged out here. That'll help us laminate a little bit more tomorrow. Oh. Get our catalyst out of the way there, don't need that anymore. And again, same thing, we're just gonna get our resin out as quick as possible. Like I said, I wasn't planning on necessarily doing a second layer, but I've got plenty of resin in the cup, so take advantage of it. And we'll let that sit for just a few minutes here and wait for the glues to dissolve. I'm going to call that a win. Got 2 very thin layers down on our mold patterns today. These are going to go extremely quick. We'll be making parts out of these probably by the beginning of next week. At least the naca duct part of it. Because Project Honda Rod needs a naca duct. Right now I have 1 and I need 2 because I need one on both sides of the car. Again, just nice, normal, medium pressure. I'm not really cranking on this too hard. The air is dumb. It doesn't know what to do, so you just gotta give it a little persuasion, and it does exactly what you want, which is get out of your mold surface. And then let's see if we have enough. Again, it's just ripping right on its own. It's going to stretch basically where it needs to go. No cutting required. Easy cheesy. That looks fantastic. It's amazing how conformable this chop strand mat is once the glues actually dissolve. It'll pretty much go around anything. So if you're struggling with chop strand mat, that is your trick of the trade. I guess get different resin. Do not use Bondo brand resin from Home Depot or Menards or any of your big box stores. Get good quality composite resin. That is crucial when it comes to this kind of work. Going to double check with my flashlight here, make sure that I have no air bubbles in there. That looks fantastic down the pocket. Kind of work our way around the flange a little bit. That looks stellar. All right. There we go. First layer is down on the naca duct mold. First layer is down our Honda emblem mold. And the only thing left to do is clean up my roller with a little bit of acetone. And we should be set to go for tomorrow. So I'm going to hop off the live. Thank you guys for stopping by. I will catch you guys all later. And if you don't have a subscription yet, hit the subscribe button. If you like it, hit the thumbs up button. If you want to learn more tricks, turn your notifications on, and I will catch you guys all in the next time. So, Great Duct Customs, over and out.